Living in Turkey is much harder than many people imagine. In 2018, the price of a normal home in Istanbul was around 440,000 lira. By 2022, the same home cost more than 2 million. That is more than 4 times higher in only 4 years. Even if the minimum wage has increased, it is still far from enough for people live normally. The rent for a small one-bedroom apartment in the city center is now higher than what an average person earns in a month. Because of this, buying or even renting a place to live has become almost impossible. Prices have grown so fast that even the former head of the Central Bank of Turkey could not afford his own house anymore. He had to move back into his parents' home. For millions of people, this is not only a housing problem, this is something much deeper. Many families are fighting to pay for their basic needs. Food and energy bills are rising quickly, and people are waiting in long lines to get free bread from local bakeries. At the same time, many of these bakeries are also close to closing because they cannot pay their own costs. The situation has become so bad that many of Turkey's smartest and most skilled people want to leave. Surveys show that 3 out of every 4 young Turks plan to move abroad soon. The government tried to help by freezing rent prices, paying part of energy costs, and changing their economic plans, but none of these ideas really worked. So, what caused this situation? Many people think it was because of world problems like the financial crisis or rich foreigners buying homes, but this is not true. Turkey's main problem came from one person, its president. His strong control over politics and his strange economic ideas have pushed the country into deep trouble. This is how life in Turkey turned from difficult to nearly impossible. In 2021, almost half of all people in Turkey said their life quality was very low, the highest number in more than 15 years. Around 60% of families admitted they could not buy enough food and had to wait in long queues for free bread. Many bakeries were close to going out of business because they could not pay for the ingredients or electricity. To see how everything started, we have to go back to the early 2000s. In 2002, Erdogan and his political group, the Justice and Development Party, won the national elections by a huge number of votes. At that time, Turkey was trying to recover from the 2001 crisis, which had reduced the country's GDP by about 6% in just 1 year. Erdogan promised to rebuild the country by cutting government spending and making investors trust Turkey again. Between 2001 and 2005, the government deficit dropped from 16% GDP to only 2%. It was painful because hospitals and schools received less money, but it worked. Inflation went down from more than 100% to only 8%. Businesses could finally plan ahead without fearing that prices would double the next day, and foreign investors began to trust Turkey again. At the same time, the world entered a period of very low interest rates. In the United States, the rate dropped to around 1%. This meant that investors no longer earned much money keeping their savings in American banks, so they started looking for other places to invest. Turkey looked perfect, it connected Europe and Asia and had big growth potential. By 2006, foreign direct investment in Turkey reached about $10 billion a year, 10 times more than before. The economy grew more than 7% each year between 2002 and 2007, and many people began to earn higher salaries. Construction became one of the largest industries in the country, employing more than 1.5 million people. For the first time in decades, normal Turkish families could actually buy their own homes. Even during the global financial crisis of 2008, Turkey managed to stay strong while many other countries suffered. It looked like the country was unstoppable. But that was the peak. After 2010, things started to change. Erdogan's political power grew and he began to push his personal economic ideas. He strongly believed in Islamic finance, where interest rates are considered sinful and should stay as low as possible. For years he could not fully apply these ideas but 2017 he had enough control to change the rules. He removed the independence of the central bank and replaced experienced economists with people who agreed with him. Soon after, global interest rates in the United States began to rise again. Investors could now earn more profit in America with lower risk, so they started pulling their money out of Turkey. In 1 year, Turkey lost almost $9 billion in foreign investment. The first to feel the pain was the construction industry. Between 2017 and 2018, new home sales dropped nearly 20%. Growth in construction, which had been in double digits for years, fell to zero. The entire industry had depended on cheap foreign credit, and when that money disappeared, thousands of projects stopped. 2 million workers lost their jobs, and families who had taken loans for houses could no longer pay them. But worse was yet to come. When investors left, they exchanged the lira for foreign money, which caused the value of the Turkish lira to fall fast. In only a few months, it lost the third of its value. Normally, a cheaper currency can help exports, but Turkey imported a lot of food and goods that made everything more expensive. A normal government would have raised interest rates to stop inflation, but Erdogan did the opposite. He lowered them even more, saying interest was the mother of all evil. The result was a disaster. By 2018, inflation had more than doubled, and food and utility prices exploded. The value of the lira continued to fall, reaching records low. Although the central bank later tried to raise interest rates again, it was already too late. By 2024, the lira had lost about 6 times its value compared to its strongest period, and prices were growing up to 85% a year. Housing prices skyrocketed in just 2 years, and average home price in Istanbul tripled, and rents across the country rose by more than 150% in 2022. Surveys show that over 60% of families spend more than half of their income just to have a place to live. Buying a house, once a dream of middle-class families, became almost impossible for young people. Even though wages were going up, inflation grew faster. People's money lost values as soon as they received it, and saving for a future became hopeless.